Resurrection F has finally graced itself upon US theater screens. But can it really live up to its predecessor? Hello there, beautiful friends from around the world. I'm going to be your host, Blackenfist, and welcome to my Resurrection F review. It almost seems to this point another year, another Dragon Ball movie. Well, I guess not. The last one just came out I guess 2 years ago. But being the second one, it seems the stakes are higher and the expectations definitely were raised from the first one. Not just from fans, but from Toei Animation. So did it live up? Well, let's start with the story. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know the story already, and I'm not gonna go step by step with it, but the remaining fragments of Frieza's army, now almost in ruins without its own leader, tries to find a way to resurrect Frieza. The only way, it seems, is to use the Dragon Balls, so they go down to Earth, where they track down Emperor Pilaf, who has already gathered them for them. Frieza gets resurrected, trains up, and then meets up with our heroes. That's the basic premise of the movie, and I'm pretty sure most of you knew that already. I must say, this movie isn't really too plot derived. Like, for instance, Battle of Gods was very much a character-driven movie. The character of Goku and of course the new characters Beerus and Whis. This movie is much less so. It's much more focused on the action-oriented things. And when you have action in this, you must have good animation. In terms of animation, I think that the animation has actually improved since Battle of Gods. Obviously, the animation would have had to improve since this is a much more action-intensive film. But, like my criticism for Battle of Gods, I did notice a little bit of the CG. Now, the CG wasn't as bad as it was in Battle of Gods, because quite honestly it wasn't played straight up in front of your face, but in Resurrection F they tried to at least keep it in the background, or keep it a little bit more subtle than it was in Battle of Gods, which of course is an improvement since the CG really doesn't mesh well with the 2D animation. However, I must say, there were some instances when the CG did help a scene out, especially when they were doing crazy camera rotations. It is an improvement over Battle of Gods in this department. I also want to talk about Chris Ayres, as he's voicing a very key character for this movie, Frieza. Now, I must say that I never really watched Kai, and although I never watched Kai, when I did hear clips of Chris Ayres' performance of Frieza, I did think that Chris Ayres did a better job than Linda Young as the part of Frieza, but I never really got to digest his performance per se. But this movie was really the first time I really got the exposure to Chris Ayres as Frieza, and I must say, I was impressed. I think Chris Ayres is a perfect match for Frieza and did an absolutely amazing job with the character. And I know some guys who are fans of the old dub might not like this, but he did a far superior version than Linda Young. As I said before, this is a very action-heavy movie, so of course the choreography had to have been played a part. I did notice in this movie during a lot of the fights that they used a lot of more traditional martial arts in the fighting in this movie, which is something that I think is a good thing to take Dragon Ball in, as Dragon Ball in the later parts of the series strayed away from, but it seems this movie is determined to get that aspect back. And I give him a thumbs up for that. I must say, I love the incorporation of Tien Shinhan, Master Roshi, and Krillin. At least they get to do something. But especially Master Roshi. I don't know what it is about Master Roshi, but Master Roshi was especially badass in this film. But we don't get to see Yamcha in sight. Overall, because this was a much more action-heavy movie, I must say it was a much more entertaining film than Battle of Gods. But that isn't without its faults, however. Now, there's two directions I can take the faults of this movie. I can either talk about how there are continuity errors within this movie that quite don't make sense, like for instance how Frieza said he's gonna reach a power level of 1.3 million, but I'm not gonna get into those things. Series continuity aside, I'm gonna talk more about the faults of this movie as a movie itself, and not how it fits with the rest of the series. I want to really talk about Norihito Sumitomo's soundtrack, because Honestly, I think he dropped the ball on this one. By no means am I trying to bash him. I actually did like his work in Battle of Gods, and despite what some other people are saying, I actually am digging what he's doing in Dragon Ball Super right now. When his tracks hit the mark, they hit him pretty well. However, I must say that the majority of his soundtrack was pretty underwhelming. Now that's fine for Dragon Ball, sometimes you need it, but like I said before, this is a very action-heavy film. It's not very character-driven, and honestly, it's not very plot-driven either. A lot of the focus is on the fighting, so the music should reflect that. And if you have a lot of underwhelming music, I just feel that it's not matching up to the tone of the movie, which almost makes the music sound out of place, it seems. Speaking about underwhelming, there was lots of moments of silence in this movie, and while I completely understand that there is a need for silence in movies and in TV shows, and by no means am I trying to say that there should have been music being played at every second of this film. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's a little strange when I see, like, for instance, Goku and Frieza fighting for like 2 minutes straight in complete silence, and then music starts to play to ramp up the intensity of the scene, but it seems a little jarring when the music starts playing like that because you had just been listening to this whole fight in silence for 2 minutes. So it's like, oh, the music's starting up again. And quite honestly, I feel that if I notice that the music is starting up again, it kind of takes me out of the movie, and I shouldn't be able to notice things like that. If I notice something like that, it means that the soundtrack wasn't properly supporting the scenes in the movie, which in this case were intense action scenes. Another fault I really had with the movie was how Frieza was treated. He was the big bad villain to come back. And although I must say that in the beginning of the movie, as Frieza was getting set up to come back, I did feel it started off pretty strong. However, toward the end of the movie, it seemed that you started to understand the circumstances and the stakes and how many things were stacked against Frieza, and belittling your main villain like this relieves a lot of the tension from the actual fight, because you start to understand, well, okay, Frieza might be winning and have the upper hand here, but as you start to understand the circumstances a little bit more in the movie, you start to understand it almost doesn't even matter if Frieza's doing good here, because so many things are stacked up against him that it seems that no matter what Frieza does, he's going to lose. And although this is Dragon Ball and we know Frieza's going to lose, the odds shouldn't be so stacked against him that it's that obvious. And in the end, what that really does is that we lose a little bit of our investment in the actual fight, which is extremely important for this movie, because we know that Frieza kind of doesn't have a chance. And just on one last note, me being a little bit nitpicky, but I do feel that there was something that was revealed in the very beginning of the movie. It had something to do with Whis, a power of Whis, that I feel shouldn't have been revealed at that point in the movie. And it should have been reserved for the end, even though it might have been a little Deus Ex Machina, because it would have made the scene in the end, which I'm not trying to spoil for you guys, a lot more dramatic. But the way it is in the movie, it isn't dramatic because we already know what Whis is capable of. So a lot of the tension in that scene is completely relieved, which I don't think is a good thing. So I just feel that one little thing that was revealed toward the beginning of the movie shouldn't have been revealed at that very point in the movie. But overall, guys, my initial thoughts after watching it, it was a more entertaining film than Battle of Gods. Is it a better film? No, I don't feel that they dove into Goku's character in this movie at all. They did dive a little bit into Frieza's, but this movie definitely wasn't a very character-driven movie. In the end, I would probably say that Battle of Gods is the better movie, and this one is a much more entertaining film. This movie, in structure, is pretty much the old Dragon Ball Z movies. Dead Zone, Cooler's Revenge, Tree of Might. This movie is pretty much a brand new 2015 version of that, with a few alterations and little differences, but this is pretty much one of the old Dragon Ball Z films done anew. And it kind of makes sense because some of those other films are a lot more entertaining than Battle of Gods, but they're worse in terms of quality, in terms of diving into the actual character of everybody. But that's exactly what this film is. But anyway guys, that has been my review of this movie, and hopefully you guys can share some of your thoughts on what you thought of this movie and maybe disagree with what I said here. I don't know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will think that this movie was better than Battle of Gods, and if you do, maybe you just can tell me in the comments why you think that. But anyway guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel so you can be the first ones to be notified when more Dragon Ball content is being brought your way. But until next time guys, I'm Blackenfist, and I'm out, man.
Hey Juan, did you talk about how they put Frieza on like a chicken rotisserie machine and he got smacked in the ass by Goku and Vegeta?